owns the rights to it, or oh, it's
Well,
not official if if X or B or Y.
that would depend upon the series in particular, though. But
Correct. So,
like,
for example, in Star
but that's
Wars,
not subjective.
yes. So, for example, in Star Wars, there's a lot of people that say, I only believe the Star Wars movies created by George Lucas are canon because he's the original creator.
Yeah.
And other, what? Yes,
That
there are
no,
people. There are.
nobody or very few people think that that there's only one canon. People will usually say Disney canon or Legends canon. They're both canon, but just in different ways.
Right. Well, yeah,
That's not a subjective thing though. Like Disney straight up came and told us exactly what was in the Disney canon. Like it wasn't ambiguous at all. They literally told us everything except the 2008
right. So I'm
Clone
agreeing
Wars
with you.
and the movies.
It would be
Is no longer
canon. Canon. Some people, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So that's what I said earlier. Some people would think the original movies are their own canon and have no relation to the Disney movies simply because they're written by a different author.
I don't know anybody that thinks that. I mean, I don't know what justification you would even provide for that.
There's tons of people.
I mean, what's the justification
it's the
for
same
that?
justification because a lot of people say Dragon Ball GT is non-canon because it was not created by Akira Toriyama.
Well, then they're incorrect because it is canon. Akira Toriyama even says that it takes place in a different timeline, so it's still canon.
That's the argument I'm making.
Okay, well, then that's not subjective. It doesn't mean it's subjective. That just means they're misinformed. Like somebody could think 1 + 1 = 3 as well if they wanted, right?
Right. So what if I made a Dragon Ball Z story?
Yeah.
Could that be considered canon, and why not?
Not to the other Dragon Ball Z stories. Not
Why
unless
not?
it was officially recognized by Toei or Akira Toriyama.
So
you don't hold licensing to the series, right?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be canon.
So it's directly related to the licensing then.
In the case of Dragon Ball, yes.
Yeah. For example, you know, Toyotaro, he has like a Dragon.
I mean, we're not disagreeing. We're not disagreeing on anything.
Okay.
So far, at least.
We're just
okay. Well, I'm presenting the idea that it's not subjective, so like the way you determine whether something is canon is through objective means. Typically, it can be subjective, sure. Like certain things.
What is subjective? What is subjective is if it's canon to the primary series or X series. So, like for example,
what, you mean GT or
right? So, like GT, some people say is non-canon to the primary Dragon Ball Z series. That I feel is subjective.
Yeah, it's.
Feel free to correct me.
It's not, but that just means they're misinformed because it's directly stated that it takes place in another like timeline or dimension. So it can't be canon to the main timeline, right? It would only be canon to its own timeline.
Okay, what about the Dragon Ball Z video games? Are those canon to the main storyline?
I'm not aware of them ever being officially recognized. Possibly.
Online was at a point in time, but
yeah, online used to be, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, how about before Disney took over Star Wars? Was every single book created for Star Wars canon to the original Star Wars movies?
Well, some of them weren't canon, but the ones that weren't, it was made clear that they weren't canon. But for the most part, yes. That was the whole point of the Disney clapdown.
Right. So you're telling me that there's a Star Wars book where there was like Chewbacca had like a gay relationship with some alien or something and all this crazy stuff. So you're telling me if I were to say in a Star Wars discussion...
When did that happen in Legends?
Look it up.
What do you mean? Are you talking about fan fiction?
No.
I mean, if it's not contradicted and it fits into the timeline, then yeah, why not?
If it fits into the timeline, but who determines that?
Well, if it's obviously directly contradicted by something that's a higher source, then why would it be considered canon?
Higher source.
Yeah.
What is the source hierarchy?
Well, the movies are obviously the original primary source, aren't they? So it would be like if the comic stated that the Death Star had never been destroyed, for instance, and then we later find out like, oh, actually it was destroyed. You'd be like, well, okay, that's probably not canon then, right?
At least we wouldn't use that information because it's wrong.
Yeah. That particular piece of information would not be consistent, at least.
To contradict Chewbacca being gay,
Yeah.
then we could use that.
Okay.
Like, is there anything actually wrong
What
with
about
Chewbacca
what about
being gay?
if two stories came out by authors approved by George Lucas and they had contradicting stories with each other, but not to the movies? Which one is canon? Which one
Well,
isn't?
we'd have to look at which one was endorsed and at what time they came out.
They were both endorsed and they're both released at the same time.
No, in which way were they endorsed?
George Lucas said, "Hey, buy these books. They're fantastic. They're terrific."
Well, and he spoke about both of them in the same way.
Yep, they were both released on the same day. Which one's canon? Which one isn't?
And he says both. They're both canon. They're both canon, but they have contradictory evidence within them. You'd have to come to. It would be. It's nuanced.
So it appears
that.
So it appears that if they have contradictory stuff in them, they are still capable of being canon, which contradicts what you said earlier.
No, that's not what I said. I said it suggests that they may not be canon.
Oh, okay. So now it's a suggestion.
Yes.
Which means it's subjective.
No, that doesn't mean it's subjective. Why does that mean it's subjective?
Because you get
if I
basically
have
get
evidence,
to choose, like, oh yeah, this one's canon, this one's not. Because
I don't feel like
it.
You don't understand what suggest means. Evidently, I'll explain it to you. So just because I have evidence that suggests that something is true doesn't mean that's subjective. Okay. For instance, if I have evidence to suggest
that, fair enough. So
Yellowstone Mountain is going to erupt, that doesn't mean it's subjective.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I'm not trying to be rude, but
okay.
But so you're saying it's possible for a book to like its canonicity to be unknown?
To be unknown?
Yeah, like these two books that came out that contradict each other. We don't.
Not by your definition. It's not.
And I'm asking you, like, if these two books came out and they contradicted each other, and I said, "Are these books canon?" You would say, "I don't know."
Using your definition of canon, it would be impossible for them for it to be unknown because we have to know.
By your definition. I'm saying by your definition, which one's canon?
It would just be an inconsistency.
Yeah.
Things that contradict each other in like Marvel or DC that are both considered canon doesn't mean that they're non-canon just because they're
we would just consider that particular piece of information contradicted.
So they'd be canon, but they'd be contradictory.
There would be parts of the story that we would consider inconsistent or contradicted, which happens in plenty of cases.
But they're canon, right?
Yeah.
So because they're contradictory, they can still be canon. So that means even if it's contradictory to the original series, it can still be canon.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not attacking you. What I'm saying, we've both changed our views on this. Like earlier, you said.
No, I didn't.
Originally,
I already clarified. Wait, no. Now you're just lying because I already clarified what my position was.
Originally, you said.
Okay, remind me what. Go ahead and repeat to me what I said about contradictions. Then.
You said earlier. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to straw man you or anything.
You're intentionally misrepresenting me right now.
No, you said if it contradicts...
Because I made it very clear what my position was, and I think either you're an idiot or you're intentionally misrepresenting it.
If it contradicts the source material, the primary material, then it could be considered non-canon. That's literally what you said.
Yes. I said it could suggest that it's non-canon, actually, and I even made that clear. So at no point have I...
No, you didn't say suggest earlier, Bert.
Yes, I did.
I'll take your word.
Clear. I even made it clear that was my position afterwards, so you can't then continue to say that was my position.
So if it suggests that it's non-canon, that means it's potentially non-canon. But then...
Yes, and also, the two examples you used, neither of them were primary to the other, either.
Right, so a minute ago...
I said if it contradicts the primary source, then it could be considered non-canon. And not just small contradictions.
Hold on, don't say can it. It can be considered. Is it or is it not? Not can it.
Well, again, it's nuanced. It's nuanced.
It's nuanced.
Yes.
Nuanced. So you're saying different people will come to different conclusions on this, right?
No, that's not what nuanced is. I'm saying that there are multiple variables that would be relevant to whether it was canon or not, and that alone is not necessarily
So
enough
what
to
are
suggest
what are
whether
these
it's canon
what are
or
these
not.
variables?
I don't know. There could be any number of things to determine that.
Would you say these variables, since there's any number of them, and there's nobody that really apparently there's nobody that sits there and has them written in stone, would you not agree that that's subjective then?
Why?
Well, if you have multiple variables that aren't written in stone, and everybody's going to come
Okay,
up with
how many numbers are there?
if you have let me finish, please. If
How
you have
many numbers are there? No, answer. How many numbers are there?
numbers of what?
How many numbers are there?
Of what?
How many numbers are there? It's a very easy question.
Oh, you mean like in the like? Oh, you mean like 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
Well, theoretically infinite.
What do you mean theoretically? Do you mean it's subjective?
No,
Do you see what I'm saying?
no,
Why did you say theoretically?
because
How do you know they're infinite?
that's how number theory works.
Oh, great argument. It's because that's how they work. Good argument, dude.
I'm not arguing. I'm answering you the question.
That's not a valid answer then. How many numbers are there? I want you to either tell me exactly how many there are, or you're saying that they're subjective.
No, that's
How
not what
many
I'm saying.
asteroids are there in the asteroid
So,
belt?
for one, you interrupted me when I was trying to make my point. So you think you're countering me, but you're not. But you literally never let me finish.
I'm actually
my point.
mocking you right now.
No, I understand. I understand it. So my point was, if something could be considered canon or not is based on an unknown amount of multiple factors, and these factors are there's nothing written set in stone about what these factors are. People can choose which factors they like, which factors they don't. Some people can choose which factors are valid, which factors are not valid. That to me makes it seem subjective.
When did I ever state that at any point? When did I ever state that people could simply arbitrarily choose which are valid and unvalid?
I asked you, you said there are many factors that determine whether something is canon or not when it comes to contradicting the primary source. And I said, what are those factors?
And at any point, when did I say that people could just arbitrarily decide what they are?
Well, I'm allowing you to. I'm making an assumption on you because I asked you what are those factors, and I'll ask you again. What are they?
I never said that because that was never my position. I never stated that people could just arbitrarily decide. You just inserted.
I just said I'm assuming you think that because you could not.
Okay, don't assume that I think anything. Though,
no, it's a fair assumption unless you answer this question.
It's not a fair assumption. It's a baseless assumption because I never said anything along those lines whatsoever.
I'm asking.
It is baseless.
No,
the only reason you even inserted that line of logic is because it supported your argument. Because I never said anything like that, not even remotely like that.
Right, because again.
Just because I said there were many factors and I didn't care. Just because I said there are many factors and I didn't care to name them all, doesn't mean that those factors are decided upon subjectively.
You're repeating yourself. Please let me talk.
I'm repeating myself because you consistently misrepresent me.
Okay, are you done?
I don't know. You done misrepresenting me?
I asked you a question. I said, what?
It was not a question. Now you're just lying. You stated I said
Dude,
that.
there's literally no point in talking to you.
You're going to have to admit that you strawmanned me there, or I'm not going to let you say anything. Why should I? If you're willing to misrepresent me like that, why should I even bother? So you admit I didn't say that.
I mean, you can keep talking. You can literally just keep talking. Just keep going.
Okay, then I'll accept your concession.
Let me know.
If you're unwilling to admit.
Let me know when you're done talking, and then I will respond.
If you're unwilling to admit that what I said didn't suggest what you stated I suggested, then there is no point in even continuing this, because you're obviously willing to be intellectually dishonest.
Are you finished? I'm not going to speak again until you say you're finished.
Okay. All right, dude. GG. Thank you for playing. Anyway, what brings all you all here?
Oh man, I heard there was a weeaboo debate.
That wasn't a debate. That was literally just you interrupting me the whole time.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, it wasn't a debate,
Oh,
dude.
shit.
Yeah. I was trying to get Darth
really
to talk,
wasn't.
but he wouldn't talk.
Unfortunate.
I can
I
try
have
and get him
talked
back
to
in
him
here.
before.
Yeah, I can try and bait him back in here. You haven't talked to Batman yet. I was really trying to get Batman in here. Batman's the greatest.
What was the debate? What's canon?
Whether canonity is
Right.
subjective.
So
or
the
not.
debate was.
Is
Whether
this for
canonity
Dragon
is
Ball?
subjective or not.
You guys have
Just
like
in
you have a
general.
Dragon Ball
For-
profile pictures. I'm assuming it's for Dragon Ball, or
Just for fiction in general.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
we were talking about Dragon Ball and Star Wars got brought up too.
Dude, Dragon Ball's canon is like ridiculous. Like Toriyama literally is just like everything's canon. He's like, like Toei. No matter what Toei does, he's like, nah, that's canon. It's just in a different timeline. Like that's it. So I was like,
The
oh.
movies, hell yeah, they're
Everything's
canon.
canon, yeah.
GT, that shit's canon.
Dude, he even made GT canon by saying it was just like an alternate dimension that could be connected to the main one and like fucking what was it in the games and shit. It's weird.
Yeah.
And he like worked on a lot of the games, like Dragon Ball Online and shit. It's weird. There's no reason
So
of arguing.
the debate was, if a book, for example, was released that was an official book, you know, by the official company that made the original series, but it contradicted something in the primary series.
For the
That's
record,
actually
that wasn't
that's
actually
happened.
the debate.
Right.
That's happened before
So,
then. Like
Web-
with
For the record, that's not
Web-
actually the debate. That was an
Web-
example you tried to refute
Dude,
my
shut
logic.
up, please. Stop interrupting.
Why? You're misrepresenting
Just
what
stop
happened
interrupting.
again.
Like, seriously.
Well, if you're gonna,
If
if
you
you're
have
gonna,
a problem
if you're
with what I
gonna
say,
lead with something,
If you have a problem with what I say, wait till I'm finished, and then you can respond.
why should
okay?
I let you finish? If,
Because
if your
that's
premise
common.
is already
It's common
incorrect.
human decency. It's common human decency.
I don't care about human decency. I'll do what I
I
want.
clearly you don't.
I do
clearly
whatever
you
the fuck
don't.
I want.
I know. Clearly you don't.
Thank you. I'm glad you acknowledged that.
Yeah, and it's not a good trait. To
I don't
have.
care about your decency whatsoever. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Right. That just literally just makes you a degenerate. That's all it is.
Okay, and? I mean, you
There's
can
no
grandstand
and.
I'm a degenerate if you want, but that doesn't mean anything.
Right. It's just.
Why does
there's not
common
produ-
human
it's not-
decency even
it's-
have value?
Look, I couldn't even explain to Seisu our argument because you just keep over
But
talking.
you weren't explaining the argument. I even had to elaborate that
Are
you
you
weren't.
mentally disabled? Like a legitimate question. Are you?
You even said it wasn't a debate to begin with, and now you're like trying to acknowledge that this was the debate. So you're already contradicting yourself.
Seisu, like, do you care enough for me to tell you
it's
what the
Seisu,
debate
by the way.
was? Seisu, do you care enough for me to tell you what the debate was? Because this guy's not going to let me talk over
I mean,
it.
I'm gonna tell him
Thank you,
anyway.
Papa.
You're clearly gonna misrepresent it, so I'm
I'm
perfectly
not.
capable of telling him.
No, I'm not.
I'm gonna stay neutral. You guys do your thing.
Yeah, plus thank you for acknowledging that it was a debate with that statement, by the way. Because you tried to reject it as a debate earlier.
Dude,
But
I
now you
wasn't-
want to claim now you want to claim you want to answer what the debate
I
is.
wasn't being literal, okay? When someone
You
says
weren't
this
being
is,
literal.
when someone says
Oh
this
my.
isn't even a debate because you're literally just talking over me the whole time, clearly I was not being literal, okay? Yeah, I don't see how you can't
How
understand.
am I supposed to know you're being literal now then?
Just all I ask is that you don't talk over me. That's it. I literally could not get out more than 4 sentences.
But if you're
4
gonna
words.
I already know what
Look,
you're
I
gonna say.
literally
is the
can't get
issue.
over 4 words without you.
Yeah, because I already know what
It's-
you're going to
it's
say
absolutely
because you're very
insane.
predictable. You
So
have
are
issues
you. I
being
already know you're
concise,
gonna-
which is
I
why
know
I'm
you're-
interrupting
I-
you.
I already know you're going to. If I say 4 words and you interrupt me, I can't. You can't tell if I'm being concise or not.
Yes, I can.
It's insane.
I can tell if you're being concise
Just
or
stop
not.
talking over me.
You ramble a
No,
lot
just
already.
stop talking over me. You ramble
I mean, if you're
way more than
unable
me.
to
Are
be
you crazy?
concise-
You ramble way more than me. That's a
I
joke.
ramble more than
You
you.
literally
That's
talked
definitely
for like
incorrect.
2 minutes.